We'll try not to get into that debate. But Michael, I want to take Dato's analysis to another level. Now, assuming if the default occurs, that's going to be the biggest sukuk default in history. Again, sometimes market is very much shaped by the perception. And I think earlier on, Dato Justin, came out with a suggestion that perhaps, Malaysia could chip in to restructure, offer some advice on that. But particularly, what is the impact on the corrosion of confidence? Because like any market, is always built on confidence. And what would that in turn impact the direction that Malaysia should be taking?
Yeah, it seems like the potential Dubai default is the buzzword of the week. I am in full agreement with Dato' Sharon. I think that if Dubai defaults, then it's just fundamentally a case of the business entity not generating enough cash flow to cover its commitments. It's as simple as that. Whether it's conventional, whether it's Sharia inspired, does not make a difference. And I think people should understand that there are fundamentals of providing a loan, and if the entity is not able to service it through the generation of appropriate cash flow based on commitments, then there is a problem. Not with the type of funding, but it's a problem with the entity itself that signed up to those commitments. But I do agree that from a perception perspective, there could potentially be a fallout. But I never agreed in the first place from a philosophical perspective that Islamic financing or Sharia-inspired financing is a magical key that would unlock a different way of funding. But I do think that from a Malaysia perspective, Sharia-inspired financing could be potentially a differentiator for us in this region. And I think that whilst we should not rush headlong to position ourselves, Kuala Lumpur, as an Islamic center or Islamic financing center, I think that proposition should be investigated by the best thinkers that we have and try and figure out whether there is a unique proposition that KL can offer in this area to service this particular time zone.
Thank you. Moving on to another aspect of financial services that is, as you said, at the end of the day, any sort of product or any sort of system is very susceptible to risk, very susceptible to fallout. Then the next question is, do we have, a sound regulatory system? And insofar as Malaysia is concerned, I think we do have a relatively sound system, particularly in mitigating systemic risk. But what about in terms of excessive risk appetite? Do we have that in place at the moment, Michael?
I think that's a very interesting question, because I just came out from a workshop and there was an interview of, a video interview of a person, I cannot now recall his name, but he was the first employee of the Resolution Trust in the US that was tasked to clean up the US after its financial crisis at that time, which I think was in the 1970s. And his perspective of the current financial crisis, or the financial crisis of 2007 and 2008, is that the cause of it is the computer. It's the PC. It's the processing power of the PC. Why? Because this tool gave us human beings the perception, I think wrongly, that we could codify, assess, articulate, and manage risk. Right? We therefore are now in a situation with many banks in the world, Lloyd's, Bank of America, all of them supposedly the largest and the best in the world, in many instances not being able to articulate the value of an item on their balance sheet. I mean, isn't that shocking or what? Right? You are supposed to be running a bank and you cannot articulate the value of an item on your balance sheet. Why? Because there are so many derivatives that are layered upon each other that you can't kind of figure it out. But the people who created those derivatives thought that they could figure it out because they had the computer. Now, I'm not saying that we blame the tool. I think at the end of the day, the blame squarely lies on the lack of leadership in being able to understand the propensity to take on risks and what are the implications of those risks on the bank and obviously on the entire system. But I just wanted to share that perspective.